Hi, and thanks for joining me here at St. Thomas Aquinas for Everyone. I'm Dave Palmer, and this is likely the most important video that I've ever done in this channel. And I've done a lot of them, as you probably have noticed, and thank you for coming back and watching these. I hope you're enjoying them. But my interest in St. Thomas Aquinas and the Summa Theologia began when I bought the Summa, and at the front of the Summa, there is the encyclical by Pope Leo XIII called Aeterni Patris on the restoration of Christian philosophy. Before I started reading the Summa, I read that, and that's what convinced me to read the Summa and to dig into it, to study it, and now to teach it as well. So I ask that you please watch this entire video. I'm going to go through it as quickly as possible, but it's really important that we revisit this encyclical from 1879 by Pope Leo XIII, who I believe is one of the greatest popes that we've ever had, and take seriously what he said back then, because many of the problems that he was addressing back then have only gotten worse, and I don't think we've really carried out what he asked the church to do in this encyclical. Okay, so let's go into it. And by the way, the kind of complete name of the encyclical is On the Restoration of Christian Philosophy According to the Mind of St. Thomas Aquinas. So what he's going to do is he's going to say, hey, we need to take scholastic philosophy seriously, especially as taught by St. Thomas Aquinas, and it needs to get in the schools, and it needs to be taught to young people. Okay, that's going to basically be the crux of what he's talking about. Back in 1879, he was concerned about a lot of problems in the culture, but he did not have to deal with, social media, the influence that young people are getting for good and for bad, but a lot of just kind of unfiltered opinions and stuff that's coming to young people all the time. And what we're seeing is a increase in problems and a cough, just kind of crazy stuff going on in the culture right now, having to do with sexuality and gender and you name it, and a lot of rights, like reproductive rights, that are being asked for that really don't conform to common sense and reason. And we're also seeing a lot of violence among young people and riots, and so it's a tumultuous time that we're living in right now. All the more reason why I think we need to get back to some solid philosophy and start teaching young people, as Leo XIII is going to mention in this. Okay, so I'm going to share with you some of the excerpts from Aeterni Patris, and I want you to, instead of 1879, think about this in the year 2022 when I'm recording this. And by the way, I'm recording this on the feast of Our Lady of Fatima, and I think this very much goes in line with what Our Lady of Fatima said. If we don't pray, if we don't sacrifice, if we don't, start to turn around personally and have conversions of heart, well, the world's only going to get worse, right? That's what Our Lady of Fatima said. So Leo XIII in this encyclical said, and again, I'm only showing little excerpts from it, by reason of the gravity of the subject and the condition of the time, we are again compelled to speak to you on the mode of taking up the study of philosophy, which shall respond most fitly to the excellence of faith, and at the same time be consonant with the dignity of human science. Okay, whosoever turns his attention to the bitter strifes of these days and seeks a reason for the troubles that vex public and private life must come to the conclusion that a fruitful cause of the evils which now afflict, as well as those which threaten us, lies in this, that false conclusions concerning divine and human things, which originated in the schools of philosophy, have now crept into all orders of the state, and have been accepted by the common consent of the masses. If it was true in 1879, it's certainly true today, because we see it in media, we see it in movies, we see it in higher education. Unfortunately, we see it even in the church on many levels as well. And it's become pretty much a crisis point. Now, who did St. Thomas Aquinas, who did Leo XIII have in mind as far as the bad philosophy? Well, these are some of them. Going clockwise from the top left, we have William of Ockham and nominalism. We have Immanuel Kant, René Descartes, who is the father of modern philosophy. I think, therefore I am. Georg Hegel and the dialectic. Arthur Schopenhauer, the philosophy of pessimism, really bad stuff. Friedrich Nietzsche, who said, God is dead, among other things, the will to power. And then, of course, Karl Marx. And we're seeing the philosophy of Karl Marx played out very, very prominently and in a bit of frightful manner in our culture today. Okay, so Leo XIII had all these guys in mind. They were all well into their philosophy, and some of them had been dead for several hundred years, like in the case of Descartes when Leo XIII wrote. Okay, so Leo XIII says, in the first place, philosophy, if rightly made use of by the wise, in a certain way tends to smooth and fortify the road of true faith, and to prepare the souls of its disciplines, of disciples, for the fit reception of revelation, for which reason it is well called by ancient writers sometimes a stepping stone to the Christian faith, sometimes the prelude and help of Christianity, sometimes the gospel teacher. He's saying here that we're not really going to understand divine revelation, the things of revelation, if we don't have a basis of philosophy first. Okay, this is why seminarians study philosophy and then theology. All right, we can't go into the deep, and more important information that we learn through divine revelation about our faith through theology if we don't know how to think, if we don't know philosophy first. That's what he's saying. All right, and then he gets into the fact that the scholastic doctors were the ones who took all of the philosophy and theology from those who came before them, like Augustine and Jerome and Damascene and Chrysostom, you name it, Irenaeus, and they crystallized it and they put it together in a very good system of thought. And he's saying the scholastic doctors and the scholastic theologians are the ones that we really need to study. All right, so he said, among the scholastic doctors, the chief and master of all towers Thomas Aquinas, who, because he most venerated the ancient doctors of the church, in a certain way seems to have inherited the intellect of all. The doctrines of those illustrious men, like the scattered members of a body, Thomas collected together and cemented, distributed in wonderful order, and so increased with important additions that he is rightly and deservedly esteemed the special bulwark and glory of the Catholic faith. Okay, high praise there for St. Thomas Aquinas. All right, Leo continues, domestic and civil society even, which as all see is exposed to great danger from this plague of perverse opinions, would certainly enjoy a far more peaceful and secure existence if a more wholesome doctrine were taught in the universities and high schools. Look at that, high schools. How many people in high school are learning Thomistic philosophy? One more in conformity with the teaching of the church, such as is contained in the works of Thomas Aquinas. When philosophy stood stainless in honor and wise in judgment, then in facts and constant experience showed the liberal arts flourished as never before or since, but neglected and almost blotted out, they lay prone since philosophy began to lean to error and join hands with folly. Okay, so when philosophy is solid, when young people are learned how to think and how to align their intellect and their will to the good, the true, and the beautiful, then all the other disciplines benefit as well. All right, so look what he says here. Let carefully selected teachers endeavor to implant the doctrine of St. Thomas Aquinas in the minds of students and set forth clearly his solidity and excellence over others. Let the universities already founded or to be founded by you illustrate and defend this doctrine and use it for the refutation of prevailing errors. But lest the false for the true or the corrupt for the pure be drunk in, be ye watchful that the doctrines of Thomas be drawn from his own fountains, or at least from those rivulets which, derived from the very font, have thus far flowed according to the established agreement of learned men, pure and clear. Be careful to guard the minds of youth from those which are said to flow thence, but in reality are gathered from strange and unwholesome streams. I mean, isn't this an explanation of what's going on in our culture today, is that young people are being fed a lot of nonsense. They're learning a lot of bad stuff, bad philosophy, and it's being trickled down from, philosophers that lived hundreds of years ago. And so what does Leo say? Well, we need to get back to solid philosophy. We need to teach St. Thomas Aquinas. We need to teach him not only at the college and university level, but we need to teach him in the high schools. And I would even go so far as to say we should teach St. Thomas Aquinas in grade schools. Okay, I think parents should be teaching their kids basic Christian philosophy when they're 3 or 4 or 5 years old. Okay, this is what I have a passion for. And if you have an interest in this or you agree, please let me know. Please subscribe and like and comment, and let's begin to carry out the mission that Pope Leo XIII began over 150 years ago or so, because I think it's more needed in the year right now in the present age than it was even in the 19th century. Thank you for watching. May God bless you, and may Our Lady of Fatima intercede for us.